Hello and welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I am your sometimes available host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, my good friend, Jim Stam. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, dude, we're getting this one in somehow, some way this week before we're off for Thanksgiving, and we didn't want to miss any more shows.
Right, because we missed last week because things just weren't working out. And then this week, I had a concert that I had committed to take Megan to almost a month and a half ago, so we were gonna miss that one. We figured we better get one in somehow this week, right? It was important that we try to, because we wanted to skip the Thanksgiving week, and before you know it, we're off for a month and people are like, why'd you cancel the show? Right? So
yeah, dude, sometimes you got to force in a little afternoon delight, if you know what I mean. Pirate style.
Even my mom called me yesterday to ask where the show was, and I was like, Mom, you kind of know like what I've been doing, right?
Mom always chimes in. My mom always chimes in after the shows, so I haven't heard from her yet, but I'm sure I will. So
yeah, this concert was fun, man. It was you've heard of all these bands: Sugar Ray, Tonic, and Better Than Ezra.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I love Better Than Ezra, and I love Tonic. So I figured 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? And they're getting together to do their hits, some 90s hits, and then they sprinkled in like some Christmas songs and stuff. Fun, right? Good stuff. Well, they had a little meet and greet afterwards, Jim. Come to find out that, first, I was really excited to meet Kevin Griffin because I'm a huge Better Than Ezra fan. One of my favorite bands from the 90s. So it was just really cool to get to meet him. But I got to meet Emerson Hart too. Didn't even know. He's from Washington County. He's a huge Bucko fan. Knew who I was from the shows. So we talked a little bit about that, and he was basically like, "Are they going to be better this year?" And I ended up like holding up the line a little bit. So we had to go.
Oh no, that's cool. That's cool.
Real cool. I didn't even know he was local. Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Every once in a while, you'll hear somebody's name and they're like, yeah, they're from Pittsburgh. And like, I typically think I know everybody that's from Pittsburgh, like even moderately famous.
Yeah.
And so it is cool every once in a while. Somebody slips through the cracks.
So today, listen, it's been a couple weeks, but we're not going to rehash everything that's happened in those couple weeks. We're going to focus on some stuff that happened recently here. They've made some decisions on some players, so we kind of know what's going on with the tender list. We have a pretty good idea of who they're DFAing since they've, DFA'd them. And there's been some rumors about them making some forays into free agency that maybe we didn't see on the table as far as being realistic. And you got a really good poll question that I think we got to hammer. And that's where I want to start, Jim. Your poll question, I'll read it, but you can do the results and any comments you like from it. Pirates poll, because Jeff Passan got frisky on the timeline this morning.
Well, he got everybody all riled up, didn't he?
Yes. You said you can only pick one of the options below. Good luck, and may God have mercy on your soul. And I love the way you do these polls, because you don't give them any caveats. You leave it up to them whether they're going to think about it for a second or not, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to force something.
In fact, my channel manager from Locked On, Jeff, we've had him on the show before. You met him.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, how is this even a question? Because his first thought from his perch was, you would extend Paul Skeens. Of course you would, right? And all I wrote back to him was, or you can sign Kyle Schwarber and give yourself a better shot of winning while you already have Paul Skeens, right? And he just goes, good point. I'll wait for the results. And I was thinking to myself, Jim, that's the part right there where this poll question is going to screw people, because their initial thought is, of course, Paul Skeens. But man, I thought about it a little more personally. That's Kyle Schwarber all day for me. If I want to make sure I win while I have him, that's the one I'm doing.
Yeah, well, it's one of those. It's a question that I think kind of gives you a peek into what people value a little bit. So the results surprised me, and I think we'll have to we'll have to dive into this a little bit. But I'll give you the results. It was, I mean, 485 votes, and 62% said extend Paul Skeens. 21% signed Kyle Schwarber, and 17% said extend Connor Griffin. Since you told me a little bit about your insight, I'll give you mine. Like I think I could make a good case that the poll's backwards, even like
Yeah.
where it should be. The reason I say that is because, much like you, the Schwarber thing is for the now period, these next couple years, right? Okay, great. It's a pipe dream, whatever. We didn't mention it, by the way. This was, I think Passan said it, so, or Passan or whatever. So, that's where that comes from. I think Connor Griffin's the one that you could sign. I don't want to say the easiest to sign, but gives you the most long-term flexibility and locks him up for the a 10-year period is what I'm thinking. So I could make an argument that I think it might be backwards.
I don't think there's a wrong answer on the poll. Like I think you could pick any of them and your argument would have standing. I guess I kind of take the names out and I kind of redid the math a little bit. Connor Griffin is like, I can get you a deeper window with him. I can make sure he's there. He's the new guy that you focus on bringing the championship here because he's going to outlive Paul Skeens if you extend him. Period. If you extend Paul Skeens, you extend whatever window you believe he is capable of bringing a championship here, and it's obviously going to overlap with the entirety of Connor Griffin's Pirates career. So you could be right there.
Mm-hmm.
If you bring in Schwarber, good chance he overlaps with all three. That's why, to me, it was a no-brainer that's the one I do if I truly believe that winning right now is the most important outcome. If winning ever is the outcome, I probably go Griffin. Because, I want him for a long time, and I think he's the base. He's my Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah, and that goes back to, I think maybe that surprised me a little bit too. I thought there'd be a little more on the Kyle Schwarber side of things, because if you're looking for something right now, and God knows Pirate fans are, when it comes to winning, he's the most impact addition you can make immediately. Because even if Connor Griffin starts out of spring training and he's the guy, we don't know what that looks like yet, right out the gate. Schwarber's an impact. So you want to take a break and we can still roll into this a little bit more, because I think there's a couple more points to be made about the Skeens thing.
Sure. Yeah, let's take a quick break and we'll come back and pick it up where we left off.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Hey, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Jim and Gary with you, picking up on the poll question that Jim put out there about what they should do. Extend Connor Griffin, sign Kyle Schwarber, extend Paul Skeens. I think we both kind of talked about our approach to answering the poll ourselves, which you were obviously thinking of as you were writing it. But you like to leave it vague like that because I think like when you don't give a whole bunch of details, I think it gives people room
Mm-hmm.
to kind of mentally navigate the whole thing themselves. And as much time as people are going to give a poll question on X, you know what I mean? I think that's probably reflected in the results. I really do think the extend Paul Skeens thing. I could make an argument, Jim, without like some kind of big change. That would probably lock them into like him being the only guy getting paid on this roster for the better part of however long he's here, right? I'm not sure that I want to sign up for that regardless. I think you could get Griffin done cheap right now, and Schwarber wouldn't be quite as long range. So, I mean, that's over before you get to a pain point, right?
Yeah, that's you're going exactly where I was going with it. Just knowing the Pirates, knowing the financial landscape in baseball. That's maybe what surprised me a little bit. I think if you extend Paul Skeens, could they do that? Yeah, I think any team can extend one star. Even the lowliest of low, if you want to say from a financial standpoint.
If it
You
took 35 million a year, you could do it. You just wouldn't be able to do a whole lot else if you're going to continue to spend the way this team does. That's all.
right, you'd be even more reliant, which seems impossible for them when it comes to their own development, right? Their own drafting and
Right.
development. You essentially would hamstring them because we know how this works. And then you've also got and I hate it that baseball is this way. It's a gross conversation to have that in 2 years you might be better just getting back a massive return and having Griffin under an extension and then getting that influx that you would get from Paul Skeens without the massive contract that goes along with it. And I hate that we have to have that conversation. But I think if you're not, then you're not being realistic about the Pirates. You're not being realistic about baseball. And maybe Gary, did people vote with their hearts? They just can't seem. They just don't want to see Paul Skeens leave.
Well, for one thing, they haven't seen Connor Griffin yet. He's still projection. And I think a lot of people are kind of looking at him almost like Chad Hermanson, or along those lines. We've heard all this before. He's going to be the savior. I get it. I also would just think like as somebody that observes this stuff and I pay attention when it's not my own team, there are ways that players get talked about by scouts and other teams, and you understand the hedging of bet. Roman Anthony is one of those guys, like for Boston last year, that I think most people universally thought when he got called up, he wasn't going to go back. It was going to wind up being good, right? He was going to be a major league player. I feel that same kind of level of belief league wide in Connor Griffin, if not a little more. The Zips projections for him are ridiculous, Jim. I don't think I've seen them do Zips projections that highly touted, even for some players that are in the league. I mean, they really think this kid's going to go places. And I mean, I do too. It becomes very hard to deny. And there have been players Junior just turned 54? Right? I mean, I remember what it was like knowing he was coming when he was 18. It happens every once in a while. And I think that's where we are with Connor.
Yeah, I think you got Pirate fans have a long memory when it comes to failed prospects, right?
Sure.
They still get to look at one right now that they're hoping isn't a failed prospect in Henry Davis, right? For where he was drafted, I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think there's some of that. I think a lot of people just can't stomach the fact that Paul Skeens would be in another uniform. He's so special.
I think personally, you're waiting on the league to change to make this possible and plausible. I just do. And I don't mean that because Skeens will be forced to take less. I just mean if they were to institute some kind of a cap, your traditional bigger spenders are going to be grandfathered in already very near the very top of what they're allowed to spend anyway, which would open the door for some people that suddenly have a bat crap amount of money to spend that they've never ever been interested in spending before, would suddenly be able to go out and get one of those guys. Even though Jim and I just told you we think they could do that right now for one guy. So I think the CBA is probably the biggest savior as far as he goes. And if they don't act quickly on Connor, we'll be having this same conversation in 2 years about him.
Sure.
That's why I think we're so high on like getting him signed and everything. So speaking of Connor, and I feel like we've kind of circled the poll pretty well here, unless you want to read some comments. But
no, go ahead. I think we've got that pretty sewed up at this point. But there are some. Go with the Griffin because I think I know where you're going with this.
So Jeff Passan brings up, that the Pirates are probably very strongly considering letting him have a chance to win the job at shortstop for opening day. I mean, this is kind of weird reporting because at this point, I can't imagine a world in which they would try to convince you that he wasn't going to have an opportunity in spring. Why would you not say he would? I mean, it's barely news to me, if only because, of course, he is. So will Alika Williams. So, you know what I mean? Like, I really mean that. If you're going to invite them to camp, of course you're giving them a shot. Now, I think what Jeff's getting at is the Pirates aren't going to play games with Super 2. Again, not news. Look at what this team's done. Jared Jones started right out of camp. They blew Super 2 out of the water with Paul Skeens. In fact, I don't even know why they messed with him at all at the beginning of the season the way they went. Should have just brought him up and let it happen, right? Bubba, they didn't do it with. I think he kind of showed you why as the season went on. But Harrington started right. They're not afraid to start these kids right away. So I'm not sure why this was like some big revelation to people, but for some reason, this is the first time a bunch of Yinzers saw it as a possibility, I think, just having somebody national say it.
Well, I think it's easy to remember for some fans, the O'Neill Cruz kind of way they did it. And it's a lot easier to forget that they didn't do that with Jarrett Jones, right? Like you can forget that, but remember the Cruz thing. And by the way, with Cruz, I think we're all now seeing why they wanted to try to give him as much time as possible to get things ironed out. He's been very uneven as his major league career is gone, because he was raw. He was raw. I think So the Griffin thing to me wasn't so much a surprise that Passan would say it. It's that they are to the point now where I thought everybody knew Connor Griffin. There were no restrictions now. Like there's no rules with what Connor Griffin does. If he's ready, I think they'll play him. I honestly think there's no guardrails in place with him at this point.
I don't think there is either. And I think that the other thing about Connor that kind of makes it even easier to project him out is even if the Pirates go ahead and sign a shortstop, let's say they do something crazy, like they pivot from Schwarber and they go with Bichette and they make it happen somehow, some way. I'm not predicting that, but it's not like that would make you go, well, there goes Connor Griffin starting. That's not going to happen. He's still easily one of their 3 best outfielders. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be hard to find a spot for him to play. That's just all there is to it. And I see comments in here like got to work with third base. I actually don't understand what Doug's saying here about another reason he can't see 100+ payroll, so the Pirates shave more cap space after CBA. I have no idea what you're talking about. I really don't. Does that make any sense to you, Jim? Or am I messing up?
No, Doug, elaborate a little.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need a little more context with that.
Yeah, maybe we were talking about something and it played really well into what we were talking about, but it's not coming through for me now. As far as got to work on third base, I mean, yeah, we're just talking about 3 other possibilities here, but third base, they've got some options we've documented before. I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's a clear possibility that they sign a free agent third baseman, Jim, but they like Triolo. Whether people want to admit this or not, they like him a lot.
Yeah, and what you have to hope with Triolo is we didn't get that like false alarm tease, right? That when he hit last year, that it won't carry over. And sometimes Pirate players or baseball players in general have a habit of doing that, where they confuse things at the end, right?
Yeah.
Or not at the end, but at a time where you really need to make a decision on what they are. But the bottom line is, yeah, the Pirates are going to give Triolo every opportunity. They just are.
I mean, I think they'd like to. I really do. I think they would like to give him a chance. But if Connor Griffin wins the shortstop job, well, that's one of the spots that Triolo could play that is gone. I'm sorry, and he's not going to get it back. And if that happens, well, that opens up third base, and then I think he's in a competition with the overflow from second base. Right? So there's going to be a little bit of a battle there. And if they go and sign a free agent for third base, where is he playing? Like a little bit of first base, like whenever Horwitz isn't playing? That's another thing I've seen, and I see Doug refreshed here. I'll try to figure it out here in a second. But first base, I'm seeing people on Twitter say we don't have a first baseman still. Spencer Horwitz is the first baseman, Jim. And I don't even feel bad saying it. Hit 270. Power started coming back. Like, what? If that's not good enough for you, quit watching. Like, he's moving in the right direction. That's a good first baseman.
Yeah,
I'm happy with that.
It's a problem on the Dodgers. It's not a problem on the Pirates. Now maybe that says something in and of itself.
They've got Teoscar Hernandez on their team. I'd take Spencer Horwitz over him. Want to try again?
Well,
because it ain't a problem on the Dodgers either. I'm sorry. It would be if you were starting him over Freddie Freeman, but he's not a bad first baseman.
He's not, and he's not on the top 10 list of things that I would pick to try to upgrade on this team.
Okay, now I understand. Pirates will have more space after CBA if they keep payroll low now. They can sign big guys after CBA. Okay, I understand now. But they're so far away from whatever the cap would be, Doug. That's not going to change that much.
I think that's the problem, right? Like if this was
not only that, but just because you're not grandfathered in to being near the top of whatever the cap is, it doesn't mean like that you just get to ignore the realities of what a cap has brought. You're not going to go around going like, "Hey, $40 million contracts for everyone." That's not going to happen, even for them. They got to be smart. You still have a finite amount you're allowed to spend just because other teams are grandfathered into some stuff. We're saying this too, like it's for sure. But if they get some kind of cap, I really don't think this team is playing the kind of games that many fans seem to think they are. if only because they're barely smart enough to play the game they're playing. You can't continue to add on all of these different degrees of 4 and 5 and 6 degree chess that you think these morons are playing. Okay? Like
yeah.
That's not what's happening. Like,
You-
I would be
you can't-
surprised if this dude knows what nacho cheese is going to cost next year yet.
You can't be worried about the international chess championships in 3 years when we're barely playing checkers right now.
Yes. And then we see James says Griffin's way too young playing in the big leagues unless mid-season. Well, there's a crap ton of players that are provably different from what you just said. I mean, there's Junior, Bobby Witt Jr., there's Roman Anthony just this year, there's Jackson Churio. I mean, want me to keep going? It wouldn't be hard. The 18-year-olds have been playing this game for a long time. He'll be 19 too. Full season in. I'm sorry, I don't agree with like an age being the reason. You want to say like you've seen something in his development that isn't right or he's not ready? Valid. But just his age? Yeah, sorry. I'm not going to get on board with that.
Okay, if you want to make the argument that, Juan Soto played when he was 19, he's not Juan Soto. Okay, well, if he's 85% of Juan Soto, he still should be playing in the majors.
And you know what? He might be better than Juan Soto. Now, listen, I'm not saying that based on like my expectation, but I could tell you this: he's a better fielder.
He's a better all-around player.
He's a better fielder at multiple positions than Juan Soto will ever be. Now, does he have a long way to go to be the hitter, Juan Soto? Yeah, absolutely he does. But does he have the kind of pedigree where you shouldn't be flippantly saying he's not Juan Soto? Hell yeah, he does. Hell yeah, he does. This is exactly the type of player you shouldn't be saying that with. Just because he's a Pirate, we shouldn't assume that they're not going to be good. Look at Paul Skeens. It's crazy what he's done. And before he came up, what did we say? We sat here and said, now don't go expecting he's going to be Nolan Ryan. He's freaking Nolan Ryan.
Okay. Yeah. No, and to James's point, I think when they drafted him, they probably thought that, right? Mm-hmm. But things change. And they change for a reason. And projections change for a reason. And he has shown that he's been able to handle everything and anything and then surpass it even. So that's why I say there's no guardrails anymore. I think when they first drafted him, yeah, Gary, I think we said it. Hey, be patient, right? This is going to be a process. Well, sometimes plans change.
His dad's still saying it. Like, his dad's probably the last person in the world that you're going to convince he's ready to come up. Yeah. Like, I think that's healthy because he's putting it into his kid's head.
Sure.
So, I have a feeling that they both feel that way. All I'm saying is, like, just because you're a Pirates fan and you're used to getting screwed, don't automatically assume that this guy isn't everything that they think he is. There's a ton of people that don't go nuts about players at this level, going nuts about players, this player.
Right, and who could give two craps less about the Pirates?
In fact, most of them already are doing what they did with Skeens about where he'll wind up one day. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just that I think everybody kind of understands, and we haven't had a position player come up here and be a true star since what, Kutch? Maybe Marte? And I say Marte being nice. He was a really good player here, but he wasn't like a top 10 in the league type player. If you can get one of those, all I'm going to say is the excitement that we've had with Paul Skeens, where we're going Skeens Day. Well, every freaking day will be Griffin Day. That's why it's so freaking important to get him up here as quickly as you possibly can if he's ready and don't mess around.
Yeah. Yeah. And that just jogged my memory. That was the one thing I was going to say, not to get off track, but about the Skeens thing is, man, it's hard. It's hard to tie up the money in a guy that you see once every 5 days, no matter how great they are. You know, you're talking hopefully 30 starts out of a 162 game season. Man, that's a piss load of money to tie up in one guy. Whereas Connor Griffin, you'd be seeing it every day.
And I would imagine, I don't want to get too derailed about a cap system, but one of the things that baseball is going to have to do if they do institute a cap system is they're going to have some kind of a mechanism that if somebody is injured for an entire season, that money no longer counts against the cap, so that they have an opportunity to fix it. You know, because if you lose a guy like Paul Skeens in spring training and you're into him for $30 million or whatever the top salary is in the league in that sort of world, you're going to need to be able to go out and replace that without going over the cap. You're going to need to be able to recoup some of that. And I think you're going to have to create ways for baseball teams to be able to move salary around. Like the NFL has the cutting process where they can just shave money, or they can restructure contracts, or they have non-guaranteed contracts. For baseball is going to have some kind of mechanisms like that too, to make it okay that guys get hurt. So I mean, there's so many things to think about, Jim, when we start talking about this long-term stuff. Maybe the smartest thing to do is wait until you have the CBA in front of you and know exactly the conditions you're working with before you go out and make any long-term commitments that tie you into anything. At least with Skeens, I think that, because you're talking about a very top of the food chain type contract. If you were to get it done, no matter how you go about it, he's going to be the most you can get in a cap system, just about the most you can get outside of a cap system. Connor Griffin's not there yet. That's why, to me, that one you can do right now and not worry about the CBA.
Right. It makes sense under any scenario to get that one done if you can.
Yeah.
And we don't know how Connor Griffin feels about that, and if that's something they're interested in. But I would certainly think you would be exploring it. I think another thing you'd love to see when they talk about, and this is my last CBA comment, is trying to get some type of mechanism where, how do you help teams retain their stars or reward teams for doing that, you know, and trying to keep some guys in their markets? Because that, to me, is another big thing. I know the NBA has tried to work on that, and I think they've succeeded just in the sense of guys are able to stay. The NFL, we know it works there. But can baseball address that part of it too, where, you know, there's ways or advantages, or there are mechanisms in place to keep guys if you so wish to do it.
Right. And if you have altruistic guys that want to keep the whole team together, you can do what the Penguins have done and keep 3 guys together for 20 plus seasons because they all play off each other, taking less than they could. You know, you can mess with the cap however you like. It'll get messed with one way or another. It'll get abused one way or another. You know?
That's the beauty of this, is whatever they come up with, someone's going to try to go to work on that right away on how to get around it.
Absolutely. Around things. But I'll settle for, much like I talk about with free agency, where like I'll say, hey, I'd be interested in this guy. And then somebody will come back and go, well, he doesn't have enough power. And then I go, right, but he costs about 15 million less than the guy that you think does. Like, you have to, when you stink, okay, when you aren't a good team,
that's us.
But you have, and I think fans, really, honestly, some of you, especially on social media, you need to understand that it's okay to hit the first rung of the ladder. You got to start the climb before you can say I climbed. Okay? Everybody wants to be at the top of the food chain. Look at what your team just did last year. There's a big gap from here to there. And you're not going to get it by signing one player for $30 million. You have got to be willing to accept some guys who just chip in, some guys who just overall improve things, make the bench stronger, make the outfield a little stronger. Are you hiring the best of the best? No. But that's not the point at this. Your team hasn't signed anybody for more than 3 years, $39 million ever. And so before you sit here and demand they do 5 of them this year, take one $10 million guy and be happy with it. You know what I mean? Like if it comes along.
You also have to be very realistic about what's out there. Like it's kind of crappy, and it has been for teams are smart now. They just don't let guys head to free agency anymore if they're usually worth a damn. There's always something where they get extended. There's options. There's, you know what I mean? Like there's something in there to where it's not often guys just are out there available to the extent that you would like them to be. And I would take
they've got a problem.
If they are, they've got a problem, or they've handled things just about as perfect as you can handle them, and they hit the market just right. And then guess what? They're not going to sign with the Pirates anyway.
Or their Boris contracts, and they hit the free agent market every year because they're opting out every year, right? So, like I had somebody on my other show propose to me like they should extend Paul Skeens right now through 2020 or through 2030. Just knock it out. And I said, why would he do that? Why would they do that? Because here's the mentality for they don't understand. You don't have to do anything to have him through 2029. You don't have to do anything except say you're willing to pay every single year. That's it. That's all you have to do. Offering him an extension through that period of time would be like me calling up Nissan and saying, I'm really upset that I paid off my Nissan. Would you guys mind taking an extra $100 or so from me every month until, I'm done using it? That's stupid. Don't do that. You don't need to pay more for him right now. Like, the only reason to pay more for him right now is if you're getting a couple years of free agency.
Yeah. That's the trade-off.
That's what you're trying to buy. You're paying now so that you can have later. If you're not doing that, honestly, I hope you hear yourself talk. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then you have to pay attention to things like age and things like that too, right? Like that's why I'm so very much on the Connor Griffin side of things, because you could get him a 10-year deal, and he'd
probably
still
for
be
$100 million too,
and he'd still be hitting free agency at a great time. You know what I mean? So those are the Paul Skeens probably doesn't want. Yes, he's 23 or going to be 24, I think. Those things start to matter more at that age, even though he's still young. So. Yeah.
So let's talk about all the money that the Pirates are going to spend, because it goes back to the poll question too. The reason we're talking about Kyle Schwarber is because Jeff Passan did. He claims that the Pirates are in on it. Now, I've heard from my guys that they weren't in on it so much as somebody called and said, like, would you guys be interested in signing Kyle Schwarber? And they were like, of course we would. So, Jim, would you like to drive a Porsche?
I would love the opportunity.
Congratulations for bidding on a Porsche, you son of a bitch. You rich son of a bitch, Jim.
Well, I didn't want to flex too hard, but yes.
Well, I mean, I'm sure had they accepted your offer of $35K, you might have been in, right? I mean, I'm just saying, this is kind of what happened. I don't believe that's the case. Now, the Josh Naylor thing, I've heard they did put an offer in over 80. So they went for that. And as far as I understand too, they were not given a counter offer opportunity. Seattle gave the offer. That's really where Josh wanted to be anyway. He took it. So very real that they put some money out there that they never have. Jim, does that change anything for you as far as looking at the off season? And before you go and give me the jaded response that I expect, even from you,
you know me
of
well,
I'll believe it when I see it. We're having a talk show, so let's talk. Does it change anything for you mentally that like you can documented say they put this offer out there I didn't think they were going to put out?
There's been enough stuff going around now from different people that are not connected to the Pirates that are saying these things that typically take dumps on the Pirates, actually, for good reason many of the times, that have chimed in on this. So I do believe there's more money to be spent. Now, my concern would be is I think the Pirates, if they're just hoping to get something done because it's a fair offer, you might not be playing that in that same ballpark that other teams are because A, you haven't shown this type of commitment. B, you might have to spend a little bit more to get somebody here. And I think fans would be okay with that. But I don't think just like being in the ballpark is going to be good enough for most guys.
I don't think just being in the ballpark is going to be good enough for anyone. I didn't expect it to be for you, and it wasn't what I was trying to target when I was talking about being jaded. Of course, getting it done is important.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, nobody's going to be satisfied until they actually get one of these things done. I guess what I'm saying is, does hearing that offer occurred make you think that something else might be possible that you were shut off to before?
Yes.
Like Josh Naylor, they didn't get, but that tells me a couple things. One, boy, that's a lot of money they were willing to spend for what's going to be a DH here. Because again, they have a first baseman. And even if they don't, their first baseman would become their DH. So he's not moving to second. I don't know why people keep wanting to pretend that can happen. It was a disaster in Blue Jay land. It's why they traded him. Because they had a first baseman. Stop trying to make the Pirates do what failed elsewhere. Horwitz is the first baseman. Naylor was going to be the DH. That's what was going to happen, and that's a lot of money for a DH. Does that open your mind at all? Does that make you go like, oh my God, I never considered they'd even think about that. So maybe this trade is possible now, or I could pick up that salary, or I could.
Yes, I do think it puts them like, I don't expect it to be in that top tier, but I think it could get them in a second tier type dude. Whether that's through taking on salary through a trade, which I still think might be better than the free agent market, by the way. Not that that's easy to do, but could I see them getting something? I'm just going to throw a name out here. Would it shock me if they got a Eugenio Suarez this year? No, I think they could do that.
It wouldn't shock me as much now. After hearing that offer, that's actually a perfect example of one that probably does come into the realm of possibilities after that. I mean, I just don't think they're going to be on any of the pitchers. I don't think they need to be. So, I mean, I think it opens the door for them making a trade for somebody like Santander, who didn't get used up in Toronto. It really went badly. He's owed, a decent amount of money yet. But I think they want that money off their books because they didn't use them, and the Pirates could use that. That might be a good way to be willing to spend the money and trade relatively low assets to get something. I think that's a possibility. Nick Castellanos they want to get rid of in Philly probably, right? So good shot there.
Yeah, I think these are the second tier guys, right?
Yeah, you could potentially be looking to do something like that. Byron Buxton, you know, Royce Lewis. You know, you want to look around and see if there's some guys that you can grab off of teams. I think that being willing to spend that kind of dollar figure probably does open up a few avenues that maybe we haven't looked at before. And while we do have to take another break, man, we talked for a minute there, brother.
We did, but it's been good, so I don't really care, Gary.
Well, let's come back. Let's talk about a few more rumors that are going around and these tender decisions they made, like keeping Jack. I mean,
And let's piss some people off and yell Jack Sawinski like I just yelled Kenny Pickett in a Steeler bar.
well, Jack Sawinski's absolutely going to be the leadoff hitter and starting center fielder next year. Everybody knows it. That's why they kept him, right?
That's why they committed big dollars to him.
That's right.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Let's start with a banger here. Propaganda leaked to Jeff Passan by Charrington because such negativity. This worst ownership in baseball created look at I'm not going to try to read that because I don't understand what he's saying.
Let's just go with the first part.
Well, if that's true, two of his underlings told me that it wasn't true, so I'm not sure why they would work against themselves with local media. The reality is an agent told Jeff Passan that somebody was in on Schwarber because the agents are drumming up a market for their player. As far as anything else Jeff Passan said, I can't think of anything else that would have been leaked by Charrington.
And listen, everybody knows the game, right? There's always the agents and there's always the GMs talking and there's always people with the self-serving interests. That's true. It's the Pirates. Take everything with a grain of salt. But sometimes, I think it matters who says it. And again, I'll stress that Jeff Passan takes, man, I can't say his name, so I'm just going to quit trying. When there's a chance to take a dump on the Pirates, he does. So I would just say, yeah, of course.
Let me say this, though. We talked about incentive with the CBA coming up for teams to act different. And I think we kind of squashed it a little bit, if only because, at least from this perspective in Pittsburgh, I don't think we believe that they're smart enough to be playing that kind of forward-thinking game. That doesn't mean that everybody isn't. But I do think that the reporters in and of themselves, I think they have an incentive to try to pretend that the small market teams are in on a lot of these bigger name free agents this year. I can't imagine why that would be, Jim. But I just think it's funny. All of a sudden, Ken Rosenthal's talking about the Pirates, and the Nationals and the Marlins and the White Sox. Gee, I wonder why. And the Rockies. I heard the Rockies are in on a Roz.
100%. There should always be skepticism with what you hear. 100%.
There's a reason though that we're hearing it from so many reporters right now. And it's because they want to act like, for once, all of these small market teams are out there willing to spend with the big boys. And I wouldn't be shocked if some of the big boys that don't want one wouldn't mind stepping back and just letting it happen here and there. So I could see some bigger guys getting contracts with some teams that you normally wouldn't expect it from this year. But I do think there's an agenda on that side of things for sure.
Yeah, I think we've been in this game for far too long to take anything at face value when it comes to this stuff. So sure. And especially as Pirate fans, you have a right to be skeptical. But it doesn't change my mind that I do think that there's more money in play than normal for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Right. And part of that is because they cut so much. The other thing I took from that Naylor offer, Jim, and the only reason I think it's important is because of the history we've seen with Ben Cherington, where he's had to make sure that dollars were off of the books before offers were made in other areas. And this has been deadline deals and off-season deals. We've seen this before. He's had to move out money in order to open up avenues to bring on new salary. If it were imperative that they had to get Keller's money off their books in order to spend anything else, I think that just got blown out of the water too by this Naylor report. Because it means that they're not trying to offshore his money before they do anything. And they should have room without moving him. It shouldn't be imperative to move him.
That's the thing, right? This year, there should be money just sitting that's available that would only get you back to previous spending levels, which weren't high. So that money's sitting there regardless. It would only be if they decided they wanted to go over and above that and really extend themselves, would be a situation where I would think that they would be more motivated to move Keller.
There's a ton of people that cover this team in this area. There really are. A ton. And I think I've seen just about everyone now predict that they were going to spend less than they did last year. And now conveniently, I'm starting to see them all flip to now they're thinking they might spend more this year. I'm just going to point out right here that I am the only one who has stayed right at 100 the entire time. I have never heard anyone tell me that they planned on spending less or equal to last year. And as of yet, I have not heard anyone tell me that they're going to go up to 110. But I have very much so seen both of those incidences reported. So I'm just saying, trust who you want. But that range from somewhere about 85 to 110 is in play for this team. And that gives them 30 to 40 million to spend, Jim, one way or another, without doing anything with Keller. I just think we should open our eyes and recommend things that fall within the realm of this new possibility. If they swing and miss, they swing and miss. It's not me that's going to wear egg on my face. It's them. I think we're so protective of our own feelings. We're afraid to talk about what really should be done or what we think we would do with that money. And I don't feel stupid about it. They should. We point out things that are possible and they don't do it. It's on them.
Yeah, that's why even the poll this week, which was totally hypothetical, they may do none of those things. I think it's absurd to think that they won't actually try to extend Connor Griffin. I think that's actually the most doable one of all of it.
I'd do it, especially if they really do think they want to give him a chance to win the job out of spring training. Do it now so you don't have to worry about losing the year control and all the panic that comes with it. Just get it done.
The sooner the better.
Enjoy the fruits of it and be happy with it.
Right. I think everyone gets so afraid of I like to call them the Pirates educators out there, right? Everyone wants to educate you why you can't even have a hypothetical scenario, as if that means you believe any of it might even happen, or the Pirates truth tellers. You're not splitting the atom, buddy. Everybody knows what we're up against.
So Jack Sawinski stays, huh?
Yes.
I mean, we both thought he'd probably be non-tendered. I think Ethan Houlihan did a great job of explaining it, so I'll probably just use his explanation.
Please, because I did not say it.
Yeah, Sawinski as a Super 2 player can reject an outright assignment, but he doesn't have enough service to keep his termination pay. With a higher base salary, the Pirates have effectively bought an extra option year, since it makes it less likely another team would claim Sawinski. So it's pretty much what they did with Miguel Andujar. And that being said, I don't have a problem with it. They don't have a backup center fielder. And the more I thought about it too, Jim, I was doing some math. Jack hits a home run roughly 5% of his at-bats. What percentage of his at-bats do you think Kyle Schwarber hits a home run?
Well, because you phrased it like you did, 8%.
Close, 7.5.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that's not a whole heck of a lot more. But Kyle Schwarber strikes out a ton too. Kyle Schwarber, can't play defense like Jack Sawinski. And he's had way more at-bats to fine-tune what the hell he is. Because he wasn't this when he played for the Cubs early on. You know what I mean? It took him the better part of the early area of his career to get to this point. For 1.25 million, you telling me that you can't afford to stash a guy like that? I think that's probably a smart move now that I'm really, really thinking about it. Whether you and I are ready to move on or not. Because somebody was going to give him a shot for that kind of money.
Well, I think it just comes down to the fact that people just do not want to see Jack Sawinski's name pop up anymore. That's the threshold. They as Pirate fans, they just do not want to see it. I thought it was an overblown response. I don't even think there's a guarantee you see him make it through spring training with this team. So we wait for something to get mad about the Pirates. I'm saving mine for bigger issues.
Yeah, this didn't bother me one way or another, and it bothered me even less after I heard a pretty solid explanation as to why you might do that.
Once the extra option is technically what it is, I think you understand it a little bit better.
Any problems with any of the guys that they decided to protect in the Rule 5? Esmeralda Valdez, you've followed him and seen what he's done. That was a gimme. Brandon Bidois, we talked about that, knew that was going to happen. Antoine Kelly felt like impending. I felt like Dotel was questionable, but I'm glad they did it. Tyler Samaniego, I just didn't think about. But left-handed reliever makes some sense. And then Jack Brannigan, I think, surprised some people just because he's been so injury-riddled, and the power is pretty real, though, if you look at how many he's hit for the number of at-bats that he's actually put forward, Jim. Any problems with any of those protections?
No, I think maybe Brannigan surprised me a little bit because of, what you mentioned. But other than that, not really. I don't think there's anything there that's earth-shattering. I think the guys that I'm trying to see how old Brannigan is now. Because as you mentioned, he's had trouble staying healthy. So I just thought that maybe, let's see, he's 20, he'll be 25, 26. So that probably surprised me more than anything.
And then you've got the guys that they DFA'd. Alexander Canario, not shocked by that at all. Ronnie Simon, again, not shocked by that. Dowry Moretta, I explained this on my show. I was surprised by it. Then I really started looking into it and talked a little bit more. As far as I understand, a lot of this was surrounding that devastating backup slider that he had just didn't come back after the injury, and they didn't think it was gonna. But I wouldn't be shocked if he signs here on a minor league deal, to be honest. I really wouldn't. And then Colin Holderman, greener pastures, see if you can figure it out somewhere else. Tons of talent. Feels like somebody could figure something out with him, right?
Yeah, I think both Moretta and Holderman, I think you're going to see both of them in the majors for somebody at some point. I just, for different reasons, but
I have a little less faith in Moretta. I questioned a lot of that stuff last year because when he came back, that pitch didn't look right. And that pitch is the only thing that made him special, Jim. And if he's not throwing that pitch because he's afraid he's going to hurt himself, or it actually is what hurt him, I'm sorry. I'm not wasting time. The fastball is just not special, and nothing else is either. If you don't
Yeah,
have that reverse slider, see ya.
right. Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't even bother me with Holderman at this point. I think it's time, right? Like it's time. The Pirates have tried pretty much everything with him to protect him, to get him back on track. Sometimes
I'm not bothered by it. I just feel like a little weird with the new pitching coach coming in that you wouldn't want these two guys who have had a little bit of success to like get a little bit of time with him. But then again, Colin Holderman, I think, maybe it's just when he gets on the major league mound, because they haven't had the problems with him in AAA that they're seeing at the majors. They're not even having the issues with his control in the bullpen when they're doing the side sessions and whatnot. It's when he gets in the actual games where everything starts to fall apart for him. So maybe they're just not wanting to play that game anymore. And Moretta, again, I really feel like the injury, for whatever reason, severely limited what he could do.
Yeah,
And
I very much like Moretta in the fact that he's kind of like a grinder and a bulldog when he gets out there. I think he'll find his way back, but I don't know that. I think it'll be very much journeyman-esque for him for sure.
And then you see some other teams that are kind of being a little bit more liberal than even the Pirates with cutting guys, like Adolis Garcia, Jonah Heim, two guys that, 3 years of listening to Pirates fans tell me that they should trade for one or both of those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're both being non-tendered. And I think we've seen a rash of those around the league. A lot of guys getting not protected that or DFA'd that probably were guys we were interested in 3-4 years ago. Just shows things are tough all over, man. Like not everybody's got their stuff together either, right?
No, and it's easy to fall in love with guys in the off season and say you want them. Hey, I did it with Nathaniel Lowe. He was non-tendered. There are always guys out there that they get to this point in their career. A lot of teams are just like, that's too much. That's too much money at this point. It's not worth it.
I think it's a little bit of too much money, and I think people are more willing to make room for younger players.
Yep.
Like we were talking about last time we did a show.
46 years ago.
Yeah. We were talking about last time we did a show, we were talking about how the league is starting to skew younger. You're starting to see guys more willing to call up their prospects early, and I think it's pushing some of these other guys who would normally have ridden the arbitration clock out. Well, now I think people are kind of like, yeah, those last couple expensive years, forget it. You go somewhere else and get that. And I think you could see the Pirates make some of those decisions too. And like candidates for that are guys like Nick Gonzalez. Like let's say that what he is right now is what he is. Well, arbitration will stepladder him up to the point where he's making 7-8 by the time he gets to that last year or so. And if this is what he is, you're not going to want to pay 7 or 8. So I think that's how these kind of situations get to. It doesn't mean that they're all bad players that end up getting non-tendered. And it kind of creates a secondary free agent market that the Pirates really should be looking at, right? Do you have any interest in players like Adolis Garcia? Or do you think now I know he's not perfect, but like let's say that you want let's say that you really do think you're going to upgrade the outfield. Well, what if you went and got him and just worst case scenario, he's on your bench? You're spending a little bit of money, I get it, but it's not a lot of commitment. It's 1 year for a guy that's hit a ton of home runs. Yeah, you had a really bad year last year, but that improves your team overall, doesn't it? And kind of gives you a little bit of a safety net for some other things that didn't work out so well last year. He's better than Alexander Canario. Wouldn't you mind carrying him all year? you know?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's got some postseason experience and things of that nature. You know, you worry about 32, 33 years old. The metrics are starting to not look favorable there with some of his underlying numbers. But yeah, I mean, those are, to me, I would hope that those would be the plan Bs, because otherwise you've just sat there and said, well, we tried on other people, we didn't get them, and we're going to roll with what we have. I would certainly take a guy like that because it's not going to be a big commitment.
That's
at
all
all.
I'm saying. Like those, if you have backup plans in place while you're trying to take a bigger than normal swing for you, okay. You know, I would rather you have an Adolis Garcia in here as opposed to get to January and you haven't done anything. You know, so I think I'd like to see a little bit of a let's lay down the Flex Seal and get the holes cleaned up while we have the call into the roofers. You know, let's get the rain to quit falling through the roof before we start worrying about what kind of shingles we're putting on. That's where I'm at with the Pirates, and I'd like them in free agency to go out and start addressing the major holes with just we're making sure it's covered. And that could be a smaller free agent. Maybe that is a Tommy Pham. Go get a Tommy Pham. He can ride the bench. Last thing I want to talk about, Jim, because I think all of these moves and rumors of moves and what the roster's actually doing right now and just the commitment that they put forward into that DH spot. It's very difficult for me to see Kutch come back now. Unless he takes a big time diminished role, brother. And boy, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought it was probably time to move on. As much as I love Kutch, he's my second favorite player in baseball since I was a kid. So, but you know, sometimes unless he's willing, Gary, to be 150 at bat guy, 150 plate appearance guy that steps in every once in a while. And I don't know that that's something that would interest him. And I don't know that I would want to carry him for what it would cost. Sad to say, it's not much money, but I still wouldn't probably do it.
The best way I can go with it is I don't think that only the Pirates are going to feel like he should be at the 150 to 200 at bat type threshold right now. I think the Pirates probably have more incentive to make it work than any other team. And $5 million would be nothing if you could keep this from ending badly. Somehow, some way. I wish that Kutch would come I would never tell somebody when to retire. But I wish that Kutch would come to the realization, come out and get his flowers, take his victory lap, get his moments of glory that come, go in and play here and there. But you're not going to be the starting DH every single day. I think they need that spot far too badly for guys like Flores and Reynolds. And
yeah, no, it's a place where you can try to upgrade, not a dumping ground. And I hate to say that word, use that term for Kutch.
But if he's just part of the bench mix,
well, if he's a
guy, or if they can open him up, like, hey, play a little bit outfield, like he wants to. They're the ones that won't let him. So if he wants to, let him.
I mean, I look at it like if there's a role where it's the 8th inning and he needs to pinch hit and you're looking for a professional at bat, I love that situation. Like, I love it, right? Because he's going to give you that. He's either going to work a walk or he's going to put something in play. But that really is kind of the only role that I see him in at this point.
Well, Jim, I was impressed that this many people showed up live at a 2:00 showing of the Pirates Fan Forum on a day that we never, ever do it. So I appreciate you all very much. And
yeah, thanks for chiming in, everybody.
Next week we'll be off for the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll come back a little bit more rotund the next week to be talking about the Buccos again, right? And hopefully they will have signed somebody big and major, and we'll be going exciting on the show when we talk about Pete Alonso being our new DH, right?
I do wish for Pirate fans that just one time they could be happy with a signing, right? Like a free agent signing, just once.
I'm watching my football team with a for sure, 100% for sure Hall of Fame quarterback, and people aren't happy. Like I think we're to the point now where like people are incapable of watching sports the way they used to. Like
That's a whole nother show, but I think you're right.
it is a whole other show. But it didn't used to be that you just like came in championship or nonstop bitch about every like that's I understand the Pirates have had the longest drought. I get it. It's been forever. You have every right to be pissed. Steelers fans though, man, I've seen Super Bowls in my life, like 3 of them, like I get it. I've enjoyed it. Every year is not my birthright. I don't every year that I watch a sport, if it happened every year, you wouldn't appreciate when you do get it, right? Like the Penguins had a chance to three-peat, Jim. Be honest. You were bored in that third year. You were bored a little bit because you had won so much. And you need to lose every once in a while to get it back. You do.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, I mean, Pirate fans are definitely to the point where they feel like, okay, we've lost enough. It's time to win. But no, we do this in every sport. It's just funny, like I was just talking to someone the other day, just real quick about, Mike Sullivan, it didn't end well. He's not doing well in New York, but I'm not going to dump all over Mike Sullivan. He got us 2 cups, back to back. I cherish those. So, sports fans, we're perpetually miserable. I try not to be anymore. Life's too short, Gary.
I would totally agree. Ron, you be as miserable as you like, pal. I totally get it. I totally get it. You want to sit here and come on in your free time and complain for an hour? Have fun. I'll have fun ignoring you. Merry Christmas and let's go Bucks, everybody.
Let's go Bucks!
Yeah, buddy.